Hi everybody, happy Thursday. I'm Esther Emery and many of you know me from the DIY channel Falchematic Off Grid. But today you're on my personal channel and on Thursdays I tell a story or tell things I believe or mix it all together. So feel free to get yourself some chores or just sit down and be comfortable because I'm going to tell you about my favorite chicken. I'm not going to apologize for playing favorites. I'm sure all the chicken owners out there have favorites, have that one chicken that just captures your heart. My favorite chicken is named Leia. She was our dominant hen a couple of years ago, but we've gotten a lot more chickens. We've literally doubled our flock and also gotten a couple of roosters. So I don't think she has that top dog position anymore. She's in the goat barn. Now we have two places for our chickens. And one of them is basically the fortress. It's completely predator proof, and if a chicken got out of there, I'd be pretty surprised. But the goat yard is just open. When the barn isn't closed up at night, it's just wide open with just a fence. And Leia is the only one of 13 chickens in that barn who every single morning just hops herself right over that fence and every single evening puts herself away. So every afternoon, she wanders the property. And I don't mind. She digs in the garden a little bit. We free range our chickens anyway, so it's no big deal. She digs in the garden. She goes and gets herself a little bit of the duck food, which is open by the pond. She wanders around. She hangs out. It's all good. But it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What is it about Leia, out of 13 chickens, that she looks at that fence and she doesn't see an impenetrable wall. She doesn't see something impassable. She just sees something she can hop right over. What's the difference between Leia and the other 12? I'm bringing this up today because I have the superhero story on the brain. So let me explain what I mean by the superhero story. I think that we have a narrative, a story about homesteading and particularly off-grid living in which the people who do it are some kind of superheroes, or anybody who could succeed at it would be some kind of a superhero with extraordinary gifts and capacities. On my other channel, especially on the very popular videos, I get all sorts of comments from people who don't know me. And there are two kinds of comments that I have learned to immediately ignore. And one of them is the kind that says, "You are so amazing. I could never do what you're doing." And the other is the opposite side of that same coin, which is, if you were competent enough, you wouldn't be struggling. You are not qualified to be off-grid, because otherwise, if you were, there would be fewer hardships. You wouldn't be having such a difficult time. I ignore those kinds of comments because I see them as a kind of social programming. They are both ways of saying to me, you are not qualified to live your most authentic life. You are not able to go out and make the life that you want to make for yourself. In this story, in this version of the story, Leia is the free chicken because she's the superhero chicken. As opposed to she's the one who realized, who discovered that she was capable of getting free. So I want to talk a little bit about capabilities. I want to talk a little bit about how we see our capabilities and what we see ourselves as being able to do. I've had a lot of conversations over the last few years with TV producers, especially casting directors. And I shouldn't speak too much about reality TV because I don't have a TV and I never watch it, so I really have no idea what I'm saying. But then also I know exactly what I'm saying. There's a whole, I would almost use the word conspiracy to turn off-grid stories into something that isn't realistic. And I just want to take a stand right here for reality. I want to take a stand right here and say that I think it is completely possible and admirable and ideal for people to pursue authentic life from wherever they are. I think in some ways, sometimes when people say that I'm amazing, some angle of that is I just accept the compliment. I I am amazing. I'm a Christian and I believe I was created. I believe I was created amazing. You don't have to be a Christian to, I think, understand what I'm saying here when I say I'm amazing in a human way. I'm amazing in a way that's not competitive and can be shared. I'm amazing in ways that don't set me apart from the rest of the chickens, as it were, but allow me to appreciate and value qualities that we all have. I won't say, oh, sure, I'm amazing, and that's why I turned off the light switch. I'm amazing, and that's why I set down my phone. I'm amazing, and that's why I'm raising my kids the way that I believe kids should be raised. I can see why you might think that this whole superhero thing is not a big deal. So who cares if there's TV about it? Who cares if people make bad television about any number of subjects? I'm sure that there is bad TV about just anything under the sun. But I don't think it's harmless. I think it's extremely harmful, because when I think about what a successful homestead is, I had to fight my way through a lot of nonsense about what success is. I definitely deal with the temptation to do things a harder way just because it's more primitive. Which I guess in some circumstances that makes sense, but it also can just be the superhero story saying, I want to be a superhero homesteader. And I definitely see the temptation to go bigger, better, more impressive in ways that stretch me past my limitations and cause me to increase my likelihood of failure. I'm not talking about anybody else here. I don't have to. I'm talking about myself. I actually have a particular personality which is geared towards doing too much, perfectionism, overachieving. I caught the overachiever bug disease really way early on. But I've told this story, this personal story of having felt like I was going 100 million miles an hour and crashing in this great spectacular crash, and then feeling like I needed to rebuild something more authentic, more sustainable. I wanted a life that was a life, not a spinning merry-go-round ride. And as I told that story, I've gotten so much feedback and so much response that I realize these are characteristics of my personality, but also this is a disease of our entire era. This is a disease of a consumer era in which we spend and consume and throw away at increasing paces, at an increasing pace, more and more rapidly, so that we can feed this extractive economy that gives more and more wealth to a very, very, very few people, while pulling it out of the earth and out of creatures and out of humans, and really just wringing this life dry in a culture that is very much based on greed. One of the side effects of this is a relationship between extreme experiences and numbness. So we tend to think, it's not real unless it's really intense. And I think that there's this kind of threshold, this rising threshold, as our expectations become higher and higher and higher, we have less and less value for all that ordinary life, all that delicious, valuable, wonderful, ordinary life underneath. And I think it's particularly dangerous for us because nature speaks to us and nourishes us with such subtle terms. We can be healed by the smell of mint and the nourishing gift of sunshine and the sound of birdsong or of water. Those things are meant to give us calibration and mental health and emotional security and to raise us to our strongest, most capable selves. And if we can only hear this kind of fever-pitched noise of peak experiences, how can we receive that subtle, ordinary nourishment of real life? I think to bring it back to homesteading, I think the real superhero move is not at all how much we can accomplish. It's not how many things there are on the to-do list and how many projects are successful. Those things often have to do with timing and finances more than they have to do with successful capacity to experience real life and to live your fullest potential. In fact, there's, I think, a little bit of a magic switch that you find if you can drop down into that ordinary life and let go to some extent of the need for peak experiences. You can find that information being provided at those subtle levels allows you to be more competent and more productive than you were before. It's a case for a slow life. It's a case for a simple life. It's a case for a real life. So if you're a homesteader, or if you're just somebody wanting to live your most authentic life, your fullest potential, I encourage you to not be a superhero and to not need to be a superhero, to say, I am satisfied with ordinary moments. I will resist this culture of greed, and I will say, I can use the word enough. I can use the word enough and allow myself to be open to very ordinary, nourishing gifts of wind and water and plant life and animal life and all the things that disappear when the noise gets too loud. And maybe you'll find, like my favorite chicken, that the world's a little wider than you thought it was. I'm Esther Emery. Thanks for listening today. I'll see you next week.